do with the excess? It can't hold on to that. It has to release it. So where does it release it from? There's two ways it releases it.
Leaves.
One is through the leaves, which is transpiration. And again, per day, a mature oak tree can release 500 litres of water per day into the atmosphere. 500 litres into the atmosphere. Now, the second place where it releases water is through the roots. So you'll see underneath trees, the soil is always nice and moist. So, so now, if we start growing things in that area, we don't need to be watering them. So clearly, trees are a really significant part of this, and so if we plant fruit trees, nut trees, trees that are going to give us some kind of a useful yield, but also they create protection, shade. Maybe we can grow things up it. And as well as them cleaning the air. There's so many things that trees do for us. Really, if we want to be worshipping, we should be worshipping trees. They really
Indians.
So much beautiful things for us. Actually, when I teach in India, I think you just dropped a card. When I teach in India, I'll literally go, after about 4 or 5 days of me teaching my style, they start to understand some of my crazy thoughts and crazy ideas. I say, right, 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're going into the jungle. So be up at 4:30, we're going for a walk. Okay, they trust me, so off we go. And I make sure they're talking to each other as we're walking. And then we arrive and say, right, stop, close your eyes. What can you hear? Huh? It's raining. That's not possible. It's no monsoon for another 3 months. I say, where's that water coming from? And you look at the trees and they're transpiring, they're sweating. And we come back 7 o'clock, no sign there was ever any water. No sign whatsoever. I mean, your banana plants, you see once you water your banana plant, you see the amount of water. A few hours later, 4, 5, 6 hours later, you see the amount of water that comes off of that. It's really magical. So we can utilize this. So why do I need to water my garden if I have trees? If I've got trees and I plant things accordingly in the right places, I don't need to water. So, also, if I, so maybe some sunlight gets to the forest floor, and that can start to evaporate the water. So if instead I grow lots and lots of things on the forest floor, and the other thing is weeding. Weeds, why do weeds come? What are weeds? They're just plants that are trying to solve a problem. When you bare the soil, it's like me ripping your skin off. And your body's going to react. Your body's going to, well, I need to repair this. How do I repair it? And so it's the same with the soil. And nature has found a way that when human beings bare the soil, it says, right, I need to fix this as soon as possible. The way I'll fix it is by sending weeds, by sending plants that have so many seeds that they spread them far and wide. And they will land, they're really tenacious, they don't need much nutrients, they don't need much water, but wherever they land, if they've got a good, a certain amount of soil, a certain amount, bang, thank you very much, I'll grow as quickly as possible, I'll create more seeds, and I'll spread those seeds again. So the more you clear your land, the more nature says, don't worry, I'll fix it for you, there. And what you see actually, what you really notice with many of those plants is they are all mostly medicinal. They're really rich and really dynamic and really fantastic plants that are, have so much healing capability. They're there to heal the soil, but they can also heal you. So if you learn to understand those weeds...
Vibrate.
Say again?
When we touch the tree, vibrate. Vibrate us.
Yeah. Absolutely, everything is vibration. Everything is energy. And yes, so trees have vibration, they have energy, they have life, they have vital force. And so if we interact with them, because we're also made of energy, and quite often our energy is dispersed. You know, we have mobile phones, we have television, we have all these distractions, and but the tree can help us to clean our vibration, make us stronger. So by looking at their garden, I realised if I plant so many things on the forest floor that there's no room for weeds to come, several things will happen. A, I don't need to weed. B, many of these plants, if I design it well, can be giving me food. Many of them will be digging minerals and nutrients from really deep down that even the trees can't get to those nutrients. They'll bring those nutrients up, and when they die, they release it back to the soil to feed the rest of my ecosystem. So they're feeding it. They're also, by creating cover, they're protecting it from the sun, so therefore water doesn't evaporate. And basically, I mean, you've seen this pattern. So basically, you know, you create an ecosystem where you have plenty of trees. You protect the soil by having plenty of plants on the forest floor. The two support each other. They build their own nutrients. They, you know, so you don't need to water. You don't need to, you know, if you have enough diversity of plants, you'll have a lot of different insects which will pollinate the different plants that you have. By having lots of different trees and shrubs and different plants, again, you'll have, say, such a diversity of different insects that they predate on each other, so not one of them actually becomes a pest. But most importantly, and so this was the garden I designed for my parents, and after, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years, a professor, university professor of agriculture, came round to my house once, and my mother was still alive then, and he asked her, so, wow, this garden is amazing. How much time do you spend working on this garden? She's like, well, I don't really. I said, come on, how much time do you spend working? Why won't you tell me? I said, no, I don't really. And so he said, okay, so you must be watering it, you know? No, waters itself. We have a water collection, but I just use it to wash my hands. You must be weeding. No, we don't really weed, don't have to weed. Occasionally a weed pops up, but Rakesh comes and says, oh, right, we can make soap from that, we can do soap. I leave the weeds, a few that do pop up, so no problem. And invariably what you find is the weeds that do pop up in your garden, invariably they are the right medicine for you. If you have a cough, the weed that's just popped up in your, if you look it up, it's always a cough medicine plant. Nature is really, really spectacular like that. It really takes care of us, if we allow it to, if we understand it. Yes, I don't weed. And he said, you must be planting things on. No, everything's just perennial, and occasionally throw a few seeds out. But no, don't. So he lost. All right, so what do you do? She said, well, every day I just go out and harvest. I just go out and eat stuff. I just harvest, and I just enjoy the garden. I can just spend time just relaxing, just breathing, and just eating, and just, you know. And I say, this design comes from observing nature. So Indians did this. You know, many other parts of the world, they've been doing this for thousands of years. And the inspiration for doing it here in England came from someone who watched and saw the home gardens in India, and took that pattern, that idea, and said, how do we make that work here in this climate? And so it's taken, you know, that was back in the 70s, 80s really. So in the 80s they really started to try and make this happen, and by the 90s it was starting to get a little bit popular with the emergence of permaculture. The two kind of went hand in hand, and I guess around about the noughties is where someone really kicked in and really started to get really good experiments going, and now it's a really strong phenomenon. And the reason why I'm so passionate about making food forests and growing food in this way is not only do we get a lot of food, that food is nutritionally dense. It's food that you only need a small amount of it. If you look at the food that's conventionally from, you know, supermarkets, it has no nutrients in it whatsoever. But then, because of cultural practices of how we prepare our foods and how we make our dishes each day, we have such strange combinations of foods that we actually don't get the nutrients we need from it. So, for example,
Block each other.
say again?
They block each other.
Exactly, they block each other. So for example, if imagine there's certain foods, let's say, that take 5 hours in our stomach to digest, others that take, let's say, 45 minutes to digest. If we eat one after the other, if they're both in the same meal, the thing that needed 5 hours to digest gets into your intestines before it's digested. The stuff that only needed 45 minutes has been sitting there so long that it's now fermented. And that's why we get gas. Yeah, bloating and gas and then and how it knows is the body, well, how does our stomach actually break down food? Acid. So when you see an apple, the body says, that's an apple. You see it with your eyes, the mind starts thinking, you touch it, yes, it's an apple. And you start smelling it, that smells like a really good apple. And your saliva starts saying, right, I'm going to start breaking it down, and you crunch into it, and obviously you chew, until, you know, all the saliva has really broken everything down, and it's really, and then it goes into your stomach, and then the stomach has already prepared, right, I need this much acid to break this down. And off it goes, and after about 45 minutes, the pH is neutralized. It says, right, must be ready, let it into the intestines. The intestines, then the villi, you know, because it's been properly digested, the villi can now absorb those nutrients and bring it into your blood and then start utilizing it. Fantastic. So this is what we're designed for. And, you know, and nature grows things at certain times of the year, you know, when we need it. And so there's a big abundance of strawberries or raspberries or certain fruits or greens at certain times of the year. Oh, great, fantastic, love it. And then nothing. Then there's other things. Then there's root vegetables. Then there's this. Then there's nuts. And, you know, and we eat. But if you see what we're doing now, we have such a diversity of foods. We have, you know, England exports as much apples as it imports. It imports as much as it exports. You know, both ways. It's like, why?
Yeah, we're one of the biggest producers of apples.
And yet we're importing it from around the world. And yet they actually, you know, many apples actually sit, even though it's sold to you as fresh, could be 2-3 years old. Yeah. They're sitting in warehouses, waxed, and even freezed, irradiated, and they're not fresh. There's no nutrients in them. There's no life in them. So basically, cut a long story short, maybe I spent a bit too much time on this, but by mixing foods, you know, by not going through that pattern of how we have built ourselves, you know, how we've evolved to actually eat, by mixing our foods in our stomach, we've got some things that may take a long time, some things that may need a short time. So our stomach, you know, it says, this is an apple, this is meat, this is rice, this is lentils, this is, how much acid do I need? Okay, that much then. Not quite sure, but all right, let's put that much in. And then the pH neutralizes. Half of the things are over-digested, flatulence, wind. The rest are under-digested. The villi, well, that's too big, I can't do anything with that. Can't absorb the minerals, it flushes out. Then there's the actual like oxalic acids and this, that and the other, which actually one mineral nutrient inhibits another from actually allowing your body to digest it and whatnot. So all of a sudden we're not getting enough nutrients. So the body says, I need more nutrients. What do? Eat more. And you eat more, and that takes more acid, more energy. It takes a lot of energy to produce that acid, and all of a sudden, you know, you don't have any energy and you fall asleep after you've eaten, you know, and then we don't have energy for life. Then all of a sudden you see people have to sleep, more than 5-6 hours a day. Some people sleep 7, 8, 9 hours a day, and they don't wake refreshed. They don't wake, well, hey, great, 5 o'clock in the morning, let's go. They're like, oh, I really need to go.
Another 5 minutes.
Yeah, you need a coffee. And, they've got no energy left for life because it's all being drained because of how we eat, and so going back to the main point, in a forest garden, growing food in this way, there is so much nutrients in the soil if we allow nature to do its thing. The food may be small, the fruit may be small, but it's packed. It's nutritionally dense. And so you eat a small amount of that, boom, you get the energy you need without having to spend all the effort and energy of producing so much acid to break it down, and wow, now you're ready for life. So I'm a qualified homeopath, maybe I didn't say that, and as such, when I used to have clients, the first thing I would do is I'd put them on a diet. I'd say, just for the next month, try just eating like this. And that alone, just changing your diet, bang, along with the right homeopathic remedy, brings about so much change. Most of the cells in your body were not here 21 days ago. There's not one cell in your body that was here 7 years ago. Not one cell in apart from your hair and maybe nails, if you haven't cut your nails for 7 years. There's no regenerative cell in your body, including all your organs, your brain, etc., that were here 7 years ago. That means, and 21 days is the regenerative time, that means that 21 days of changing something as simple as diet can totally change our lives. And so growing food which is nutritionally dense, but more than that, is bacterially rich. I think we have something like 2 to 3 kilos of bacteria in our gut, which, if it wasn't for those bacteria, we would not be able to digest or eat anything. We would die. So there's good bacteria and bad bacteria. There's bacteria that doesn't really help us. There's other bacteria that really does help us. So creating a good bacteria in the gut is, again, really essential for a healthy life. And what we find, some of the things that can help us to really have a healthy gut are fermented foods, fermented pickles and things.